So today I would like to talk about 4 qualities that help us live together with others. And these are called the Brhmavihras. This word Brhmavihara has many meanings, several meanings. It's sometimes translated as divine abodes, but and they can be practiced in 2 ways. One as an absorption practice, and the other as just an ordinary wholesome mind state. And an example of this development of an ordinary wholesome mind state is the way we reflect in the mornings. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. We just want to bring the wholesome feeling to our mind for ourselves and so on. So I'm going to talk about these as ordinary wholesome states that are helpful when people live and work together. So these 4 Brhmaviharas, or divine abodes, are metta, M-E-T-T-A, or loving kindness. And the second is karuna, K-A-R-U-N-A, which is compassion. The third is mudita, M-U-D-I-T-A, which is sympathetic joy. And the fourth is upekkha, U-P-E-K-K-H-A, which is equanimity. Metta, or loving kindness, is sometimes also called selfless love. Oftentimes, the feelings we have of others for others are not truly metta. So, what is this loving kindness, metta? First of all, it has the characteristic of wanting what is good for the other person. It wants what is good for others. This is from the Pali text, hitakara pavati lekkhana. So it wants what is good for others, and it functions to do things, say, do, and plan things that are for the welfare of others. So its characteristic is wanting the welfare of others. It's goodwill, and it functions to actually manifest on a mental, verbal, and physical level. So it's quite natural when we have a feeling of goodwill towards others, wanting them to be well, wanting them to be happy, then it's natural that we will do things or say things or plan things that will make others feel well, good. And it manifests as uprooting quarrels. When we have a feeling of goodwill towards another, then whatever quarrel or resentment or grudge might have been there, it can't withstand the power of goodwill. So how do we get to this state of feeling goodwill towards others? It's said that the cause for this feeling to arise is seeing a person's lovable side. If we look at a person's disagreeable aspects, what is going to happen in our mind? We're only going to feel dislike and anger. And this is like to look at someone's disagreeable sides, look at the bad side, is like poking a bullfrog with a stick. If you do that, it just swells up. There's a certain type of bullfrog that when you poke it with a stick, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and finally it can't move at all. So its legs just are very tiny, and its body gets really, really huge. So this is what our mind gets like when we look at something, the disagreeable side of another person. It just, and then we can't the mind gets very stiff when it's angry, rigid. So to cultivate metta, we have to ignore the bad side, and we have to find something lovable about that person. It may be minute, but we still have to focus on that. So this is the quality of loving kindness. The second quality that helps us to live together is compassion. And compassion is not pity, it's not sorrow. It's the feeling of wanting to dispel the suffering of another. It's a dukkha paniyakara pavati lakkhana. It has the characteristic of wanting to dispel the suffering of another person. And it functions in that we cannot sit still with compassion cannot sit still when it sees another person's suffering. It wants to do something. Whether a person is actually able to dispel the suffering or not, it wants to do so.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
It manifests as an absence of cruelty. When we feel compassion, we want to relieve other people's suffering. So it's the opposite of cruelty. There won't be cruelty in the mind when we have compassion. So how can this feeling arise in the mind? It arises when we see that people who are suffering have no refuge. If we see that aspect, that they have nothing to rely on, they have no refuge. Seeing that, we will feel compassion and want to help them. The third quality that helps us to live together is called mudita, or sympathetic joy. It has the character of rejoicing, being glad. And it functions to eliminate envy. When we feel glad to see other people's success, we won't feel envy for them. And it manifests as being free of discontent. If we feel envy, then we'll feel discontent when we see other people's success. But when we feel joy at their success, then this feeling of discontent or aversion will be uprooted. And the cause for it to arise is seeing the success of others. This causes sympathetic joy to arise. The last quality that helps us to live together is upekkha. Upekkha has the characteristic of being able to have a balanced attitude towards all beings. It's not a feeling of indifference. It's what it is an absence of either rejection or liking. It's just being balanced towards others. And it comes from the understanding that all beings are the owners of their karma. And whether we want them to be happy or not, whether we want them to be free of suffering or not, whether we want them to not be parted from the good things that they have obtained, despite our wishes for them, they, like all beings, go according to their own karma. And therefore the happiness, the suffering, the success, the failure, all this is ultimately due to their own karma. So despite our wishes for others, it's not that we shouldn't try to help others, but that we have to understand that all beings are the owners of their karma. So this helps us to have a balanced attitude towards all beings. So if this is not clear yet, there's an analogy in the text that explains these different attitudes. And this is explained as the feelings that a mother has for her 4 children. So first of all, the mother's youngest child is an infant who is nursing. And so when she nurses her child, she wants him to be healthy. She wants him to be well. So this is like metta. That's the feeling of goodwill, just wanting the baby to be well. And the next child is a little bit older and has been weaned. So this child is not very healthy right now because he's not used to eating solid food. He's a little bit sickly. And so the mother wants him to be free of this suffering. She wants him to be better. And then the third child, she's older. She's healthy. She's gotten past the stage of the toddler. And so she's healthy and she can run about and play. And so when the mother sees how this child is now healthy and able to run about and so on, the mother feels happy. And this is like mudita, sympathetic joy. And the 4th child is the oldest. So she's basically grown up and she can make her own decisions. And so the mother has to simply watch what she does with equanimity. The child will make her own decisions. She's not so young that the mother has to do that for her. She's not nursing. She's not a toddler. She's not, she's not a young child anymore. So her happiness in life is going to be based on her own decisions. And the mother is not able to do anything about it at that point. So she simply understands that this is the child's life is now under the child's hands, in the child's own hands, not in her hands anymore. Metta and all these qualities, but beginning with metta is very important in living together, because when we want the welfare of others, then we can forgive others when they wrong us, when they do wrong. Whether we're working together or in a family or in a group, to want the welfare of others means, first of all, we'll be able to forgive when we have been wronged, and we can be patient with others. The ability to be forbearing and patient is important because there are always going to be things that we don't like. And so if when we're wronged, then we retaliate, then the other person will retaliate, and there's just no end to the quarrel. And when there's a quarrel, both sides end up being hurt. So the best way is to realize this and to forbear. So metta and forbearance go together very well. And in addition, when we have a feeling of metta, wanting what is good for others, then we can make sacrifices. We can put aside our own individual interest and put the needs of the group first. This is very important for living or working together. In the world these days, at large, there's a lot of selfishness, and when people are selfish, they just see what they want or what their immediate group wants, and they don't have any ability to think about how others feel. So it's very difficult for individuals to cooperate, for countries to cooperate. It's on a very large scale. So metta is not like that. Metta is not at all concerned with whether the other side feels the same way for us. Its only concern is having the feeling of wanting that other person's welfare. But it does happen that metta does get reciprocated. It can have the effect of creating a feeling of metta in the people for whom we feel that way. And I'll tell a little story about how one of the benefits of metta, I mentioned 11 benefits of metta, and one of them is that animals will love us. So there's a story about how animals loved a man who had loving kindness for them. So as you may know, in Burma, there are many stray dogs. And there was a man named Ubatu, and he loved animals. He felt a lot of compassion for them, and he especially loved dogs. So he would look after them, and he would feed them. And in particular, we can often find stray dogs around the pagoda, around pagodas. So this man Ubatu used to go to a particular pagoda, Chaikasan pagoda, on certain days, and he would prepare food and then he would feed the dogs who were living around there. And they would always come and greet him very warmly, which, of course, this is not too unusual. However, at one time he and some friends went on a pilgrimage to the east, to Chaito, to that area, and to go to the pagoda that they wanted to see, they had to pass through a particular village. And it happened that in that village, the dogs usually bit people. Whenever they saw someone, they were very fierce. So as he was going through the village, the dogs ran after him. And so everybody thought, oh, they're going to attack this man. But instead, the dogs put up their paws like this and greeted him very friendly. And this was undoubtedly couldn't be that for any other reason except for that he, in Rangoon, he had made a habit of feeding dogs. So because of the metta that he habitually cultivated, the dogs reciprocated. And this is what can happen, but whether it's just on our own side or whether it's reciprocated, metta makes it possible to live together. And same with compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. When we can feel happy when other people are. This feeling of, let me backtrack, it's easy to progress from loving kindness to compassion, because when we have a feeling of wanting other people to feel well, then when we see that they're suffering, we'll want to relieve that. So it's a natural progression when our loving kindness becomes stronger to also feel the feeling of wanting to dispel the suffering of others. And when these two qualities are present, then it's also possible to feel happy when we see other people feeling happy, when other people have the things that they want to have, when other people have succeeded and gained something that they wanted to have, then this feeling of sympathetic joy follows very naturally on loving kindness and compassion. So this concludes what I wanted to say about the 4 divine abodes. And I hope that all of you will be able to develop these in your lives. In addition, it's very helpful to have another quality, so I will talk about that, but it's a little bit of a different topic. So I've mentioned this before, and since a few, of course, most of the yogis who are leaving have left already, but some yogis will be leaving in the coming days, so I mention it because it's very helpful as we live our lives. And this is the ability to reflect on our actions before doing, saying, or planning things. This is technically speaking, this is called clear comprehension of beneficiality and suitability. The Buddha said that before acting or saying or planning something that we're going to do for ourselves or for others, we should first consider, is this going to be beneficial or not? Of course, if it's not going to be beneficial, then we shouldn't do that thing. We should never undertake something that's not going to be beneficial. And if we avoid the unbeneficial acts, then of course we'll avoid the detriment that can come. But it's not enough to consider simply the beneficiality. So in addition to considering beneficiality, we also have to think, okay, if this act is going to be beneficial, but is it suitable to do it? Is the time right to do it or not? Because if it's beneficial but not yet suitable, then it won't have as much benefit as we want. For something to really be successful, it should be both beneficial and suitable. And if we choose things that are both beneficial and suitable, then we'll be successful in what we do. It takes practice to develop this habit, but as we get the habit of reflecting like this before acting or before speaking or before planning something, more and more we will know what to do. More and more we will automatically choose what is beneficial and suitable. So when these clear comprehension of beneficiality and clear comprehension of suitability, when these qualities become mature, then one develops wisdom, a type of wisdom called pariharika panya, which is the wisdom to carry things out in a suitable way. And that's wisdom in action, you might even say. So it's just something that we should understand, that this is a good way to reflect on our actions and speech. So I hope that all of you will practice the good deeds of generosity, morality, and meditation bhavana, each in its own time, as you are able to do so, so that your lives will become better and better, and so that you will gain the liberation that you so desire.